Yes, welcome back to the Magic Sponge podcast, a miracle cure for all your rugby league injury issues. I'm Brien. I'm the guy behind all the NRL Physio content you see on social media. My co-host, James, you are here. Mate, it is Sunday night. We know there's a game tomorrow, but up here in sunny Queensland, we've got to work tomorrow, unlike the Sydney people. We've just actually, shout out to the survivors. We've survived Mum's Magic Round this weekend, mate. We have Magic Round for us dad schoolies, as it's fondly known, where we all go. And of course, we trade off with Mum's Magic Round, which was this weekend. The girls all went off to some fancy restaurant in the city, had a night away, which was good for them. But you survived well, mate.
All good, mate. I'm here to tell the story. The kids are actually all right, to be fair. I sort of put on a big show here and song and dance about it, but no, they were pretty good. But big week for me and you, Brien. So both our teams won big this week. Sort of been dragged down by a few of the origin rumours circulating and what our team's going to look like, which is terrifying to me. I guess we'll probably touch on that a little bit later, but I'm trying to say Billy, I trust, in Billy, I trust, in Billy, I trust. It's getting more and more challenging, though. I feel like we're in that Freddie Fittler arc where he was like a jet and a gun, and now he's just gone rogue. It sort of feels the same for Billy at the moment, mate. I don't know how we're going to go for this second game. It's looking like New South Wales 13 plus on paper, at least, isn't it?
Mate, I'm happy to jump straight into it because I know we've got plenty of listeners for injury content, but I think a lot of people come and listen to us sorrowful Queenslanders, especially when Queensland isn't looking so good. We were like very, very vocal about the Felice Kafusi, Kurt Capewell dramas of 2024. Who knew that Cody Capes part 2, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, he's back. Cody Cape, well, that's the third movie, but anyway, you get my drift. So effectively, we're here on Sunday night. What we've seen from the team so far is that New South Wales, I think, as scheduled, Tuipulotu replacing Barnett, and for Queensland, DCE out, Dearden in, and Cody Capes in for both Firma and who's the other guy?
Kurt Mann on the bench is our other one.
Bench. So, mate, how do you drop both?
3 downgrades. That's let's put it that way. It's 3 downgrades.
Both Firma didn't even play in game 1.
No.
He wasn't even on the field. How is he the one who is dropped? And Cody Capes, the chat about Fifita not getting picked all the time was, off the ball efforts, defensive, blah, blah, blah. And look, stats don't tell everything, James. We say that all the time. But Cody Capes he's the player in the comp who has missed the most tackles. And he has almost double. He's 79 or something. And the next highest is 48. He has almost double the second highest number of missed tackles. What is happening? As you say, I feel like I want to reach out to our New South Wales followers. I know you don't have much sympathy for us, and you're probably getting a lot of glee out of this. But I want to know, is this how you felt when Freddie was picking Clint Gutherson in the centres when he didn't need to do that? I think Queensland gets by with a lot of the pick and stick stuff because it's a lot of times we didn't have anyone else, right? We don't have 2-3 teams worth of players to pick from. We just kind of go, but now we do. We do have more players than this, James. We're not just dealing with scrubs. It is a grim shit. They are not even. If you ask me to make 20 changes to the team, especially the Cody Capes one, was not in 20. It wasn't in 50 changes that I could have made. I don't know about you, but it sounds like you're the same.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think, those 3 changes, they're all 3 downgrades at the position. I think, Dean's going good, no question. But I think at this point in time, I don't know if that's the right play. And then you're losing Dean off the bench to play Kurt Mann. I think that's a downgrade. You're dropping Fermor for Kurt Capewell. I think that's a downgrade. Where do we go? How do we win this game? I'm struggling to see how we do it. I'm just in the process of loading up my sports bet account, Brien, just until we get confirmation of the teams. And I might have to throw New South Wales 13 plus and 4 or 5 try scorers because it genuinely could be a bloodbath. I have that feeling when we got pumped 3-0 in the COVID year, when New South Wales just had the team of throbbers and we had guys that were just, not at their best and we're missing a couple. And it just has that feeling. It's sort of how on earth are we going to win this? I don't know. I can't see it personally. So Queensland spirit, dog and the boys, all that sort of stuff. I agree. I get that, but it's tough to see the light. It really is.
Yeah, mate, it's hard reading on a Sunday night. I love Billy so much, but oh my goodness, I just I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But anyway, we won't. We could, once again, we could do a whole podcast on just our grievances with the Queensland team in the last couple of years. We won't get too far, but hopefully that wets the whistle of any New South Wales fans who listen just to hear our sorrow, mate. Because there's plenty of sorrow this evening so far. All right, guys, let's get into it. As always, we're on YouTube. Check us out over there. We're going to run through all the injuries, loop it all back to SuperCoach and fantasy, give you likely recovery times, on-field performance, re-injury risk, all of those things. So let's get into the injury wrap for this week, which is brought to you by Pain Pod, drug-free pain relief anyone can use.
I don't know exactly what he's done. I would have thought it was an ankle, but I'm just guessing.
He shouldn't be out for a long period of time. I'm no doctor. We have to wait for the scans, obviously, but that'd be more positive than negative.
Ron, we're going to start the round 14 injuries with the HIA. So out of the first game of the round, which was the Knights versus Manly, Tyson Frizell and Lehi Hopoate were ruled out of this one. They'll go into the protocols. I guess a bit of a shame if you're a Lehi Hopoate trader innerer, given that he covers round 15. So that's a bit of a kick as well. Same with Tyson Frizell. Actually, he was going to play round 15 potentially as a number. Probably less fantasy relevant for him though, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. Both of these guys, I think both were Category 1 from what I heard. So once again, they could challenge it. Potentially, we haven't heard anything on that yet this week. The AJ Brimson thing, of course, we spoke about that. And I think I didn't, full credit to him, I haven't listened to Kenty's podcast this week, but apparently he had heard – I had heaps of people message me that he had been told that effectively the Titans argument or thing to the NRL was, hey, we've got plenty of other injuries. Can you just let us play him after 9 days? And I'm like, because I read something, it was like, oh, it wasn't he was definitely concussed, but it wasn't like a knockout concussion. And I'm like, this is just exactly what we spoke about when it first came out, right? This whole separating concussions into oh, he was knocked. We're so far as a medical community, we are so far past thinking that a knockout concussion is any worse than a non-knockout concussion. It's like if the Queensland Origin team's grim, mate, that is even grimmer. And we won't hear and this is once again, this is where I have a lot of problem with communication, because come out and tell us why he was able to play at 9 days. Give us an explanation so that once again because the comments, I posted one on Twitter that was a guy oh, him playing at 9 days is pro player safety because we figured out that we're over-diagnosing concussions that aren't actually concussions. And I'm like, I know you joke, it's the Facebook comments and bloody, bloody, blah, but it permeates into community sport. If a lot of people say I'm not qualified to talk about NRL, the inner workings of NRL clubs, which is absolutely fair enough. But what I am really qualified to talk about is community sport, because I see a lot of people from community sport. I can tell you stuff that happens at this level definitely permeates down to there, and we see it all the time. So I think this whole don't ask, don't tell, I say it all the time. I just don't think it's the right play.
Doesn't sound a bit like it, mate. I don't know. We sort of have this conversation week in, week out. It's just a bizarre one that, the NRL's, partly responsible by letting it happen, really, aren't they? I think that's where it sort of it boils down to. So we'll move off that and go to the same game. So Knights versus Manly. Kalyn Ponga, just probably a bit of a review on his ankle status, because he was reported as a medial ankle injury pre-game. And then Jazzy Tevaga has been reported as playing through a rib fracture too, Brian, but doing great things for your fantasy team. I was one of the unlucky ones that didn't jump on Jazzy T.
Mate, it's been about my only good trade this year, I reckon. Well, yeah, but definitely clearly my best trade, I would say, was him. Just jumped on him. And I think the biggest thing to say here is we obviously didn't know about the rib at the time. And this shows you where injury analysis definitely isn't everything. Because if I'd have known he had a broken rib, I would have gone. I think the other guy I was tossing up with was Hamish Stewart, who he's been a good trade in too, don't get me wrong. But if I'd have known he had a broken rib being a middle forward, I'm like, well, 99 times out of 100, broken rib, middle forward, their production's going to be down. They're going to be playing less minutes. They're going to, aggravate it, need early marks out of games, stuff like that. Just not willing to take the risk. Here he is playing through it, punching out 70, 80 minutes, scoring huge. So guys can buck the trend. So you always take this stuff with a grain of salt. There's other things, the Manly were obviously really short on middles, and so they needed Jazz to tough it out, and he obviously has. So full credit to him, because that's a really, really tough effort. A lot of people asked, is he doing extra damage? Look, is there a risk of his lungs getting, collapsing or something like that? If it is fractured, it would be a small fracture and in a spot that isn't really threatening the ribs. The lungs. You're not going to play him. When we talk about a fracture, you're not going to play him with a rib cracked in half, for example. It's going to be a small fracture that's mainly a pain management issue, super painful. And in terms of further damage, there is a risk of further damage, but the main issue is pain, getting really, really high. It's something that's going to hang around for a while. He said it's slowly getting better, but you usually, especially a fracture, you can deal with that for 2 to 3 months. It's going to be affecting him for a bit, but no one's going to jump on him at this point. But if you've got him, I'd still keep riding it out. Ponga's the interesting one, mate. So he has that, they were really specific. Adam O'Brien said that deltoid ligament. So that's the ligament on the inner side of the ankle. The two that we commonly talk about is the syndesmosis injury, which is above the ankle, and then the lateral ankle sprain, which is the outer side of the ankle. This is the inner side of the ankle. Much less common, probably the least commonly injured ankle ligaments. Look like something that can be played through. So Nathan Cleary played through it. I believe it was 2020. I think it was their first premiership year, and then had surgery on it post-season. So it is quite common for guys that can be strapped up really, really well and kind of played through. But it's just, like Adam O'Brien was pretty right. It's a lot of pain management stuff. You can flare it up quite easily. We've seen Kalyn Ponga sort of not goal kicking at the moment. I'm not sure. He is taking kickoffs, and we'll field a question about that later. But in terms of when he's going to get the goal kicking back, because he's taking kickoffs and not goal kicks, I assume just because that ankle's kind of throwing off his accuracy a little bit. He's feeling that pain when he's goal kicking. It's a little bit of a different kicking motion to a kickoff, for example. I'm not really sure. I wouldn't count on him having it back anytime soon, especially because he's probably going to be pushing to back up around Origin, those kind of things. I don't mind Dane Gagai as a sneaky pod play off the back of that, James. So, throwing to you from the SuperCoach angle, if you're a Kalyn Ponga owner, you just got to be getting rid of him by this point, even though he scored 60, saved by a late try. What do you reckon about Dane Gagai off the back of Ponga not kicking?
It's a nice shout. He's had really solid numbers the last 2 years, hasn't he? He had the Dane Gagai SuperCoach resurgence out of nowhere. He was never really relevant, and all of a sudden in the last 2 years, he just has become relevant. And I think even last year off the back of a bit of goal kicking here and there as well, it just picks his floor up a little bit. And I think he pumped out 84 on the weekend as well, Brien. So with a try assist in there, so he's scoring pretty handsomely. It's just a total unknown how long he keeps the goal kicking for, I guess, is the caveat with that, isn't it? So probably worth a little dip. Because I do love Dane Gagai. Love my Origin Dane, especially when he's in Queensland.
There's a change I would have made, James. Origin Dane. I would have brought him in over Cody Cabe, so I can
1 million %
right now.
Put him in Origin mode, and he's good to go. Don't worry about that. So, another interesting one to add to the SuperCoach repertoire there for those playing along. So we'll move on to the next game, Brien. Storm versus Cowboys, but no real injury concerns out of this one that were listed here tonight. So move to the Finns versus the Dragons. Bit of an update here on Daniel Saifiti with his shoulder injury. Sounds like worst case scenario for Maxi Plath here from the Finns with an ACL injury. Then popular trade in this week, Christian Tuipulotu is reported as a hamstring injury, and then Raymond Faitala Mariner. Bit of a random one here. As for attack, Brien, he was having difficulty breathing during the game, I believe. So that's a bit of a concerning one for RFM.
Yeah, so he has apparently has known asthma, which surprises me. They don't have his puffer, there with him. But yeah, apparently had really significant shortness of breath. I had someone at the game say that they were like even calling like the paramedics, like the medical team were calling the paramedics at one point because they were quite concerned about him. So thankfully he went to the hospital, was discharged that evening, and he's back now. So yeah, like obviously, those medical situations can be pretty concerning when you're not quite sure what's going on, especially when it's shortness of breath, that kind of thing. So yeah, just amazing that he's okay. In terms of like return to play time and stuff like that, it really just depends how that medical situation goes about. Was it just a acute asthma attack that comes and goes, or is it something that he needs further investigation on? I'll have to see how that medical process kind of progresses over the week. Mate, Christian Tuipulotu with the hamstring. I mean, I have been absolutely saved here by the fact that they didn't bring him back last week because full disclosure, and I spoke about it on here, I was probably going to bring him back when he was named last week. And I thought I had 2 weeks or 3 weeks with him before their bye. But then I kind of did my round 16 numbers and went, oh, no, I don't think I can bring him in. And yeah, like just this is why hamstring injuries, those first 2 weeks, I mean, we bang on about it. We go against it ourselves, which I know you've done this week. Like I do it all the time too. I was going to do it last week. When there's upside there, you got to roll the dice. But yeah, those first 2 weeks back are really high. The one thing with this, it is the other hamstring. Now, we always talk about that the greater risk exists on the same hamstring, but you can have compensation stuff occur during rehab, those kind of things. So yeah, obviously it was described as hamstring awareness on the night, but he still needed scans for it. So especially with his history, you're probably looking at least the next 2 weeks out, I would think. So that burns you for the bye next week. He does have, for the buys next week. He is playing next week, but then they've got the bye week after. He might best case be back the week after that. But at this point, I'll throw to you before I get to the other two Finns guys, mate. But I think off the back of a third hamstring injury, I just think you got to cut ties and probably not consider him for the rest of the year. Are you thinking the same?
That's where I'm at, Brian. So he's on my trading block this week. He'll be one of the 3 I use this week. He's highly priced. He was a little bit of a point of difference. Play hasn't worked out. You have to take your licks here and move on to someone else who gives you a bit more coverage. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing for the weeks moving forward. And I don't think he's one that I'd look to trade in later on in the year unless I had surplus trades or he got exceptionally hot. But I just can't really see a scenario where that happens for me personally. So, yeah, that's the way I'd play that out for sure.
Nice, mate. And then Maxi Plath, yeah, look, announced on the night as a minor MCL injury that he carried into the game. Now, I obviously watched the game as a Finns fan, first and foremost. So I was like getting up and about, wasn't really paying too much attention to the injuries, was just losing my mind at the Finns scoring 50. So I did my usual, went back and reviewed the footage just to kind of see, and found the initial incident for Max Plath, which was in the first half, very similar to Sione Katoa, anyone who saw my and I'll put the video out tomorrow when the Finns announce what the injury actually is. But he effectively, a player lands on his, like, sits down on his leg, and it's just a typical MCL injury. He doesn't really react all that much, gets up, kind of is a bit slow back to the line, but gets back to the line, goes at halftime, gets it strapped up and comes back out. But then he has a really, really visceral, horrible reaction to an incident about, I think, 7 or 8 minutes into the second half. You can't really see the mechanism because it's behind another player and they never really replay it. But he seems to collide with Gutho, and he goes down and like screaming and clutching at his leg, right? And I saw that at the time, and I didn't know anything at this point, and I was like, oh, that just does not look great. That doesn't look like a minor MCL to me. And so I kind of put something in the broadcast channel, and that got tongues wagging. I just said, oh, look, I saw this. It looked pretty bad. And so then I reached out to a few people reached out to a few people, and blah, blah, blah. And effectively, I had 2 separate people tell me that they'd spoken to Max personally, and he'd said, yeah, I've done my ACL. So Now, they could both be bullshitting, or Max could be, just assuming the worst potentially. He has had an ACL injury on that knee previously as well. So, maybe he's just thinking worst case scenario. The official line from the club, a few people reached out to the club directly today, and the club said, no, we haven't reviewed the scan results yet. We're talking to the doctor tomorrow. My initial inkling, and this could come back to make it look stupid, but I'm happy because I just want people to know what goes through my head, is that if it was a minor MCL, A, you would absolutely be able to feel that with hands-on testing, and B, there's no reason to kind of palm it off to tomorrow and be like, oh no, we haven't reviewed the scan results yet. We're reviewing with the doctor tomorrow. You don't really need to wait to Monday for a minor MCL more often than not. So I think it's looking pretty grim at this point in time for Max Plath. We obviously don't know what the mechanism looks like because it just was pretty blocked. But I think the important thing for people to understand here is that the MCL is a stabilizer alongside the ACL, right? So we often talk about when ACL injuries occur, there's often MCL damage as well, because it's that inward collapse of the knee which stresses the inner side of the knee that puts the MCL and the ACL under stress. So the interesting part of the discussion, which I think it's like we spoke about Schrodinger's cat or Schrodinger's ACL last week, and you'll never know the answer to this, but potentially he could have injured that MCL in the first half. It's a little bit loose, and then he goes out in the second half, and that MCL is just not quite stabilizing the ACL, and he has another mechanism which injures the ACL. So, and that's why we're always like a little bit cautious with MCLs, rushing guys back, those kind of things, because it is really, really important in helping out the ACL. So, we'll never know, but just an important thing for people to understand why those things go hand in hand, why you often see them injured together, is because they kind of stabilize in similar directions. So yeah, mate, the Finns middle, we're flying in the halves and out the back in the back line, but our middles, because the next guy, Dan Saifiti, as well with the shoulder, he's going to see a specialist. It's not responding how they would like. The whispers I've heard is kind of nervy. It sounds very similar to the Flegler thing, where initially it was supposed to be a minor issue, out for a week, maybe two, and now here we are 6 weeks later, he's seeing specialists, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty concerning, to be honest. I'll be honest, I'd almost be happy if they said, oh, it's just a shoulder reconstruction, just needs a shoulder reconstruction at this point. I'd be like, that's pretty straightforward. But it's not sounding great. So the middles, but yeah, mate, Maxi Plath, I mean, from a Finns perspective, I obviously really, really high on him as a fan, but also, just as a fan of the game, Queenslander. Probably for my SuperCoach team, I was looking to bring him in as well. It's a big blow. Hey.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I think he was one I had my eyes on at the hooker position because I really need to sort that out. And seeing a 21 roll through, I was like, oh, if he's got a minor MCL, that's okay. I can bring him in a couple of weeks for a basement bug and price, and he'll pump out huge scores. So it's a real shame. He's definitely a one that we probably need people to have their eyes on for next year. It would be racing the clock to be fit for round one, but I think he's one of those guys who'll be priced in at a very, very reasonable price to start with. He might just be in everyone's setup again next year, as he was the year prior, where he was an absolute jet for SuperCoach purposes. So yeah, prayers up to Maxi Plath. Hopefully he gets through the ACL stuff quickly. And the Dan Saifiti stuff, mate, that's really, really, really concerning to me. Just how little we've heard about it, how he's just not seemingly even like a week away or anything like that. There's not really a timeline put on him. It's definitely concerning times. It's sort of like a curse of the middles there, Brian. I don't know what happened there at KS Stadium and whether they, did something they shouldn't have in the gaming lounge or something like that. But
Oh, mate.
everyone in the middle forward section there is not having a good time. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
fingers
tell you
crossed.
what, I hate to say it about my own club, but yeah, the Finns are really putting it on for minimal injury info this season. They're
Mm,
really being quite hush. They're not kind of giving too much information away pretty much all season. So Yeah, but yeah, look, I think in terms of Plath for a return, you're absolutely right. What are we, the 8th or the 6th now? Round one's probably going to be almost in exactly 9 months' time. So I think he'll be right. But once again, our rule is, he's going to be rehabbing for most of the off season. So it just means that he doesn't have that time to build performance over the off season. He is a middle, doesn't rely on that kind of stuff as much. But yeah, I mean, if he's a bargain price, I think for the rest of the year, like in terms of guys who I really want to see now, and I'm a bit filthy, we gave away, there's a young lock that I think we sent down to the Knights in a player swap. I can't remember his name. I'm horrible with names this year. Mason Teague. I would have loved to have.
Didn't you want to the Knights?
Yeah, mate. He was a player
I
swap
didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, with a young prop that they sent up. So I'm a bit devastated because he's very similar, like for Maxi Plath, like a littler player, can play a bit of hooker, but a really good
defender
13.
system, but
Really good 13. But I think Oren Keeley is a big one. Like, just give him minutes. He killed it, I thought, the other night. Laid on a try at the end. Some good tackles, bit of fire in the belly as well. So like I think he's just got to be in and around, whether it's the middle or an edge, he can play both. So yeah, looking forward to that, and maybe a little cheapy option hopefully, because I think I saw one of the SC ballers, Matty Ricks, accidentally brought him in and forgot to reverse him back out. The only reason I know he's a cheapie is because he brought him in. I saw he's like 240k or something, so that could be a little sneaky option.
Yeah, one to keep an eye on for sure. That's a good shout, Brian. Sharks v Warriors was the next game. So Wayde Egan was ruled out pre-game with a hip injury, but not much detail that I have in front of me about that one. KL Iro with a pec concern. That's big concerns there for the Sharks. He'll probably be missing extended period of time. And Sione Katoa has just returned back from. He was a pec injury himself. Sione Katoa wasn't he? Been reported as shoulder Rico. But he was reported as an ankle injury out of this one there. He was favouring that towards the end of the game there, wasn't he, Brian?
Yeah, I went back to try and find the initial mechanism because, I saw in the match report that he was limping around on it for much of the second half. Someone keyed me into it was when I think it was Halisima or one of the forwards scored a try off a kick, and Katoa went up for it, came down, and seemed to be limping after that. But the mechanism didn't seem like he's definitely right. Katoa looked good before that, but then after that, he didn't look good. But full view, because it was a try, there was replay shown from every angle, slow motion. It just looked like a pretty regulation, jumped up, came down, like his ankle didn't seem to twist all that much. But it was definitely strapped for a high ankle kind of injury from that point. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. I can't really comment on much beyond the strapping. So just something to watch out for. Potentially, there could be something there. He looked pretty limited by it at points. Wayde Egan, we'll just get to him very quickly. It was a hip. I'd heard hammy, but minor, I would assume, because he was named and failed to overcome it. They've got the bye next week. I'd expect him back after the bye more than likely. The big one, mate, Kalyn for Sharks fans, for super coaches, everyone out there. Very highly owned, very highly regarded player for the Sharks. Look, with the pec injury, the mechanism wasn't the most traumatic I've seen. The ones we see for those pecs where the arm's hanging out to the side and it gets dragged back as they're making a tackle or something like that. You're always super worried about those, like the Tom Gilbert, for example, as a more recent example. But the big one here is that he clutched straight at that pec, came off, and ended up in a sling on the sideline. Whenever they've got a sling, that they can identify ruptures fairly easily. The big one with pecs, like I often say, is it's probably the muscle in the body that when injured, it almost has an equal occurrence of being a rupture as to being like a minor strain or something like that. Like for every pec that you hear, it's just a minor strain, he's only going to be out for 2-3 weeks, you have a pec that it's a complete rupture, he's out for 3 months. There seems to be an equal kind of occurrence of that. Whereas for like a hamstring, a calf, they're almost always, minor strain, out for 2 to 4 weeks. With a pec, because of the mechanism of injury, because it's a huge muscle belly onto a small little tendon on the shoulder there, it's just so often a significant injury. So I think best case scenario, you're probably looking at a partial tear, and 4 to 6 weeks here would be my thoughts. But then there's a real red hot chance that it's a rupture in 12 weeks. So yeah, not good for Iro. I mean, obviously we'll wait for scans to come back, but if it's a month, James, like let's say best case a month, he's been pretty good, but he's been relying on tries. He is an outside back, so doesn't rely on Peck as much for performance, making a million tackles. What are you doing if you're an Iro owner over these last few buys? Let's say best case it's 4 weeks.
Yeah, I still think it's a sell, Brian, isn't it? I don't think you really want to hang on to him for 4 weeks through this period. Well, he's priced in at what he's priced in, and you're right, he's scored tries on the reg this year, so it's one of those ones I think you just try to catch fire somewhere else. With the, and centre wing, there's so many options, isn't there, as we say every week, so I think you just pick your poison somewhere else in the centre wing spot. Broncos v Titans was the next one, Brian, so Te Kura here was an ankle injury. This was a fairly traumatic mechanism there for his ankle, so we'll probably talk to him in a bit more detail about what he might be facing. Payne Haas reported it's a hamstring injury. Reece Walsh with his, I guess, probably just favouring that knee after return from his PCL injury. Ezra Mam reported as a knee injury, and then big concerns for the Queensland camp with Tino possibly having a sternum injury. He sounds like he's touch and go as well, Brian. The goat of the 4570 Gympie postcode. That's bad news for us because he was easily our best player in game one.
Mate, if he's out, we might throw Curdy Capes in it front row, mate. You know, like
Yeah.
you get him in there. Why not? Like, yeah, what a pick. What a pick. I'm still dirty about it, James, if you can't tell. Tino, yeah, sternum, usually pain management. He's got 10 days till the game, obviously now. So that's a fair bit of time, but he's still going to be in pain. Like, it would not surprise me if he's playing with painkilling injections come Wednesday week. I'd be very surprised if they rule him out. Like, because I think even with Tino, if you say, oh, he's got to avoid contact the entire camp, like he knows, he's been through it all. He's one of your best. I think you just roll with him at this point in time. So yeah, in some doubt, I think there still is a chance it could force him out. But I would say I'm 75% confident he should be okay, unless there's like a major fracture there or something that we don't know about just yet. But a red hot chance to be, limited performance wise, a bit like what we talked about with Jazz earlier, where middle forward copping a lot of brunt to the front of the chest. So good chance that he aggravates it in the game. So yeah, something for someone who is our best forward. Yeah, it's a bit brutal. Ezra Mam, he's apparently getting scans after jarring his knee, because there's another one, James. I mean, we don't want to delve too much into the politics and the stuff behind, but I don't know if calling Ezra Mam in this season, like passes the smell test for me. Like I don't think he's an imperative member of the 20-man squad. Like I just don't understand that. But apparently he's getting scans on his knee to potentially join the Queensland squad for this week. So I'll wait and see on that. I mean, in terms of including guys in the squad, this next guy is probably the guy who I would have rather included, which is Reece Walsh, right? So he had that. Everyone hard in their mouth. I thankfully had a few messages from some Magic Sponge listeners, James, who all said because they listened to the Sponge, they were pretty confident they knew what was going on with Reece Walsh at the time, and they weren't too stressed, because we all saw he was in so much pain. After and the commentary thought it was like a twisting or something like that. Some people thought non-contact, but if you look closely, he just copped a blow to the front of the knee, and we talk about that all the time. That is the position that puts the PCL under stress. Once again, his PCL is either A, not there, or B, it's scarred over, and if you put force through scar tissue, it friggin' hurts. So, he was in a lot of pain, but it usually settles quickly. Funnily enough, seeing Billy Slater talk about it too, he was saying he went through exactly the same thing. He said, Reece Walsh is going to be dealing with that for the rest of the season. And I completely agree. I mean, Billy's been through it, so he knows. But yeah, this is what we talk about with PCLs. This is why, like, we don't expect like premium performance. And while Walsh had that awesome try, I would say overall, it probably wasn't a typical Reece Walsh top-notch game. But yeah, this is why PCLs, they have some trouble when they come back. It's easy to aggravate. Sometimes they'll need to come off, but more often than not, they're just in a lot of pain, and short-term, they're limping around, not looking good. which Reece Walsh was, but obviously he recovered well. I think he would have been fine to play next week if they didn't have the bye. So not many concerns there beyond an ongoing risk of aggravation moving forward. Payne Haas was clutching his hamstring a little bit here and there. So obviously, like, he's been named for New South Wales. He finished out the game, but just something to monitor. I don't think it's anything too major. Then Ben Te Kura, rivaled Sam Stonestreet from a couple of weeks ago in terms of like
Good call. Yeah.
Brutal syndesmosis injury mechanisms. And especially Te Kura's a huge fella, right? Like, so he's already got massive weight coming down. He had 2 players on top of him. Mate, the way I put it is, I think our good friends at Arthrex will have to make the strongest tightrope going around to put in his ankle, because Arthrex, they're the maker of the tightrope, which goes in the ankles to stabilize that syndesmosis. Actually, on that note, I can mention from this week, look out, Arthrex and myself, we're going to be doing a little bit of an education evening coming up later in the season, in and around foot and ankle injuries and those kind of things for healthcare providers. So we'll mention it more on the pod and on socials and stuff like that. But that is coming up soon. But yeah, Te Kura, mate, I think I would be shocked. Like, if he's avoided surgery there, that is an absolute miracle with the amount of force coming down through there. Have you got any concerns as a Broncos fan with Reece Walsh moving forward? I think that's probably the big one people were talking about. I think it's just a typical PCL return, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's always concerns. It's going to be a week-on-week thing. And he plays a reasonably high-risk position with what he does, sweeping out the back. Fullback is a high-risk position these days. Like, it never really used to be, but I think just with how they get involved with the defensive reads that happen, it is a hard position to play. Oftentimes, they try to isolate him on kick returns as well. So he is one of those guys that probably has a slightly higher risk of injury and aggravation moving forward there. I honestly wouldn't. The way Billy was speaking as well, Brian, I was shocked that he wasn't even in the top 20 as well, because it sounded like Billy, even after one game, was like, oh yeah, he's had enough. He could get parachuted back in. So anyway, there's a lot going on there for the Origin selections, but I don't know. Billy might not be around to tell the story if game 2 doesn't go to plan. Raiders v the Rabbitohs. What an awesome scene it was for Josh Papali'i getting some tries and just bossing over a goal at the end of it as well. That was sick by the Green Machine, and they're flying, Brian, aren't they? They're 11 wins this year, so the Green Machine are going hard this year. They've been really, really, really rock solid. Injuries out of this one. So Campbell Graham was ruled out for the Bunnies pre-game with back spasms. Savelio Tamale was it almost looks like a MCL knee concern, doesn't it? Or maybe high ankle. It was a bit of a traumatic mechanism there where he got caught up in the tackle anyway. Cody Walker's been reported as a groin injury. That was on his return today from a calf injury. And then Hudson Young's been reported as a calf. I haven't heard he's in doubt for missing New South Wales selection, Brian. Is there any cause for concern there from the Blues and Hudson Young?
No, just cramping. But I just had a lot of messages about it, so I just wanted to mention him. Just say, yep, just a cramp for Huddy Young, mate. Cody Walker, far out. Like, I think we forget. So he had. I'm going to get these around the wrong way, but like, I'm pretty sure this is the right way. He had the hamstring injury. He came back for a week. Then he had the calf injury. He's been, was out for 6 weeks or whatever he's been out for. And he's been back for not even a game and does his groin. Like, yeah, man, he is I don't know if it's the conditioning. I don't know. Like, obviously he's getting older, those kind of things. But this is a reason, like we spoke about him and said, look, he's cheap in SuperCoach. You could look at him, but you're absolutely taking the risk of all risks, because it looks like his lower limb soft tissue injury risk, and it could be anything. It could be groin, hamstring, calf, quad, hip flexor. The compensation patterns going on there at the moment would be extensive. So Campbell Graham, back spasms, no big deal, 99 times out of 100. Sometimes there's underlying stuff going on underneath there, but it sounds like he's been picked for Origin too, so I would assume the Rabbitohs have relayed to New South Wales. It's nothing to worry about. Savelio Tamale with the knee, mate. This is why I don't think I can't remember whether this was specifically like a hip drop style tackle, but I think this is a really good or shows you why hip drop tackles are so dangerous, because these mechanisms where the body weight of the tackler comes down on the lower leg, causes the foot to turn out, the knee to collapse in. It's just always fraught with danger. And there's so many things that are at risk. And this is why like doing video injury analysis for these kind of injuries is almost so difficult to nail it down to like one thing. It's very, very easy to give like the 5 things that could be injured, but it's hard to nail it down to one thing because they all just undergo stress in the one motion. So the interesting thing about this is, when I first saw it, I was walking past the TV, playing with the kids, and I went, oh, syndesmosis injury. Like you saw his foot turn. But then when I went back and watched it, I saw they were doing all the tests on his knee. So I'm like, oh, MCL for sure. So then they've come out. I think I only got to posting as they kind of gave the report that ACL was all good, which is the other another thing that's at risk with these kind of mechanisms. But they suspected MCL. So I was like, okay, they suspect MCL. Put that out there. But then post match, Ricky said that it was patella dislocation, which is the other thing that is massively at risk with these kind of mechanisms, right? And probably it would have been really clear. The one view that they gave us was on the inner side, so you can't really see the kneecap pop to the outer side. But if you remember Brent Naden earlier in the year, it was a similar mechanism, and it was just so obvious you saw that kneecap pop out to the side. I wouldn't be surprised if in the Fox archives somewhere in there, there's footage of that kneecap just going bang out and back in. So long-winded story. Effectively, best case scenario, if it is, hopefully it is just a patella dislocation and nothing else too crazy. So his MPFL would be the main ligament at risk there. Best case scenario, you're looking at kind of 4 to 6 weeks. If it popped out back in and you don't need surgery, you can see guys come back. I think Brent Naden was back in 6 weeks, but his was brutal. Like his was a really significant kneecap dislocation. But if you need surgery, 3 months. So we'll just have to wait and hear whether he needs it. The main thing is, even if he comes back without surgery, the re-injury risk or the aggravation risk is quite high. We saw that with Naden. He came off with a knee injury issue a couple of weeks ago in coming back from it. So yeah, another one, mate. I just think even best case, even if it's a month, I'm 100%. I'm a Tamale owner. I'm selling. Are you happy with that as well?
Yeah, selling for sure because he doesn't play. Well, he wasn't going to play round 15, which is next week, round 19, or round 24. So he's got the bye schedule coming up soon because the Raiders haven't had their bye yet. I think they're the last team to get their first bye this week coming. So I think it's a perfect time to sell. He's dropped a little bit of coin this week, but he's done a damn good job, Savelio Tamale, for SuperCoach purposes. He's almost. I look at him next year as almost a must-have, Brien. His floor is insane. His base and power is insane. He's been one of those ones that I look at and go, how on earth was he not getting a run at the Dragons last year? When you see what he's been able to do this year for the Raiders, and then when people say, oh no, there's not enough talent to go around for new teams, I'm like, he's a guy who just carved up and cut for a whole year that was just ready to go in NRL. He's just done the absolute business this year. He's been great. Tigers vs Panthers was the next game on the list here, Brian, but no injuries out of that one that we need to touch on here. Obviously, the Bulldogs and the Eels game hasn't happened yet, so we're not going to talk about them. For one of the teams on the bye, which is the Roosters, we're talking about Sam Walker here, Brian. So he's coming back through New South Wales Cup as of this week. I haven't heard anything about how that's gone or how he went, but that's really good news to hear for Sammy Walker, one of the genuine up-and-comers in the NRL, someone that we slurp on the reg here on the Magic Sponge as well. So it's always good from that point of view.
Mate, he got through it all good. All good. So apparently pushing for an NRL return next week, which I know you will be dancing around the TV when Sammy Walks is back. Hopefully in Maroon in the coming seasons too would be good to see. Hopefully he gets back to his best there. But yeah, just wanted to shout him out. Yeah, good to see him back and hopefully he goes well. I think for anyone asking about Brandon Smith too, if you remember, they suffered it on the same day, but then Brandon Smith ended up waiting about a month before he had his reconstruction. So he also had MCL damage as well. So in terms of planning out when Brandon Smith will be back, you can put 2 and 2 together and go probably a month after Sam Walker.
Very good, Brian. We've done well to get through all the injuries so far. Questions next. So thank you to everyone getting these through the broadcast channel. We'll launch in straight away, Brian. So first question which is hot as this question. What on earth is going on with the David Fifita situation? Is it common to have a difference of opinion between the medical staff and a player, Brian? This is a hot topic this week. My goodness.
Yeah, mate. For those who don't know, and I'm sure everyone does, but effectively, Dave Fifita had an ongoing ankle injury from late last year. He played with painkilling injections to start the season, got to a point he was off it, went and got clean-up surgery, is now in rehab, and it's leaked out that the Titans medicos have cleared him to return to play, but Dave is saying, no, I'm not. I need more time. So if we go off the question, and this is an interesting way to answer it, is it common to have a difference of opinion between medical staff and player? Absolutely. Super common, just totally in the other direction, which is the player is like, I am ready to go. Get me back out there. Like pretty much if I've done a good job with, and the athlete's done a good job with ACL recos, mate, I'm having this conversation from like month 5 almost. Like, the like players are just going, I want to get back out there. I feel good. Let me run. Let me change direction. So you have to be like the handbrake. It's much less common to have to be the accelerator. Like especially with athletes, they usually, and it's not to say it doesn't happen, especially from a mental side of things. Sometimes they have hesitation, they have mental concerns. That they're not fully confident in certain things, particularly when they're dealing with chronic pain. The one thing I will say with the Dave Fifita situation here is obviously it's a very complex thing where you can kind of use the injury situation to express, like your feelings on other parts as well. So whether it be coaching, whether it be, contract, whatever it may be, you can use your injury to be like, no, well, actually, I'm not happy playing. And it might be in his head, I'm not happy playing for Des at the moment, I'm not happy with the game plan, our relationship, whatever it may be. And so that injury provides a good way of you being like, no, I don't feel 100%. He also just might genuinely not feel 100%. But I think the thing that stinks with this, mate, and maybe this is just me sort of talking, from like a bias, like medical, but like I say this from a medical standpoint, is that it is so rotten that this has gotten out to the media. Like no matter your feelings against Dave, like he is your player that you are to protect, right? So because surely, I think you said off air, it surely hasn't come from Dave and his camp, right? It has to have come from the Titans and their camp. Like for that to get out, like that's really tough, because even if you think in your head that Dave is having it on here and stuff like that, at the end of the day, he is injured. He's not going to be in a great mental. No player is in a great mental state when they're injured. It's your job to kind of, like do your best as a club. I'm not having a crack at the medical stuff necessarily, because it could have come from anywhere in the club, right? It doesn't necessarily have to come from the medical staff. But to put that out there while a player is injured, has obviously been playing with painkilling injections, that stinks for me. And I mean, after Desi came out and said, I think someone asked him, how do you turn it around? And he said, it's up to the players, not me. I don't know what's going on at the Titans at the moment, mate. It's just doesn't seem to be a great situation. What's your read on it?
It's not happy families there, is it, Brian? There's just way more going on underneath the surface there, because I totally agree with you. I said that off air. I said, how on earth has this got wind in the media? This is just not a good thing. It's just not a good reflection on a club and a professional organisation. Like, I think, teams that are buttoned up and do this stuff well, Panthers and Storm come to mind straight away. This stuff just doesn't link. Panthers, when Dylan Edwards was playing through a broken foot for the grand final, none of that leaked. Cooper Cronk, playing through a fractured shoulder for the Roosters, none of that leaked. Like, the teams that do it well are buttoned up, and I don't think this has been handled well from it. To me, it looks like more organisation. I don't think it's a medical thing here, because, you're directly having a crack at the player, and there's no gain from this apart from getting them way offside in a situation where you're running 17th. Like, I don't really see what the end game here or the way to improve this situation is. I don't know how that stands with the playing group either. I don't know. There's too many messy things going on there that just, like you said, it just smells absolutely rotten, doesn't it? So hopefully for Dave Fifita, he can just, get himself right and just get on the field and just play good rugby league, because my goodness, I would much rather see him in a Queensland 17 than a few of the other boys we've got lining up for this next game on over in Perth. So, we really need him fit and firing and doing good things is what we need. Second question, Brian, is what's the purpose of the injections that Jacob Kiraz got to come back early from his calf injury? He had PRP, I think, from memory, didn't he?
Yep, PRP. So that stands for platelet-rich plasma. So effectively, they draw your own blood out. They spin it in a centrifuge, which is literally just a machine that spins it round and round and round. It separates the platelets or the platelet, like the rich, platelet rich plasma. It's the plasma that's very rich in platelets. And if you inject that back into an injury site or into a site of inflammation, of pain, the thought is that it is to enhance healing, to speed up the healing process. Now, for soft tissue injuries like calf strains, hamstring strains, all that kind of thing, the evidence isn't, a silver bullet. It's not fantastic, but this falls into the, I guess, the bucket of if he can get 1%, 2%, 4% improvement with the like the money and the resources that an NRL club has at their disposal, probably worth it. Give it a whirl. If it helps, great. If it doesn't, like it's a drop in the ocean of our overall, budget and those kind of things. For it, like if one of my patients who's, like runs their own business and is like, should I go get the PRP to come back to, local grade footy, I'd be like, no, it's just not, it's not going to speed it up enough. The evidence tells us that it's not going to speed it up enough to kind of get the juice worth the squeeze effectively. But yeah, that's kind of where I sit with it, is that's what it's supposed to do. There's good evidence for PRP in certain things, but probably not super strong for, or as strong as muscle strains for other things is my understanding anyway, James.
Yeah, he's just a really interesting watch for Supercoach purposes this week, Jacob Kiraz. I'm really keen to see how he goes because he's someone I might need to eye off for a little trade in for the next few weeks upcoming. Question 3, Brian, is about Scotty Drinkwater. I think one of the writers said here, did you see him grabbing his shoulder when he landed on it in the game today? Just wondering if there might have been a possible subluxation there. Is there anything we should be worried about regarding Scott Drinkwater? I didn't see this, Brian. Do you have any understanding of this, or
I
have you
did
seen any
see, yeah,
footage of this?
I
Yeah.
did see him kind of holding his arm and his shoulder for a little bit. I was pretty hopeful it was more like a burner as opposed to like a full subluxation, because he sort of didn't seem to be shifting it like it was out of place or something like that, and he was trying to get it back in. It looked that way. So yeah, hopefully nothing to it. I'm a Scotty Drinkwater owner myself, so I'm not as stressed as say like a Toby Couchman, for example, or even a Dylan Lucas who's had like multiple aggravations with it. But yeah, something to monitor, I guess.
Yeah, nice one, mate. The next one was about Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. So RTS taped up his knee and he was playing on after suffering an ACL injury a while ago. Do you have any other examples of players that played through ACL injuries and they, did okay when they were playing through those such injuries?
Yeah, so I think the obvious one, and whether you say was playing okay through the injury, but Greg Inglis, I think that was
Mm.
in the early days of NRL Physio. Actually, one of the first ones where I kind of put a video up. And I think I got pretty pasted at the time because I kind of went like it's a typical. And at that time, I was filming off the TV, so I was pretty rapid in
Yeah.
like getting it
Yeah.
out there. So I like filmed it off the TV and said, "Look, this is a non-contact change of direction mechanism, not good." And then he like played on, and everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's got no idea what he's talking about." And I felt horrible. I was like, "Oh shit!" At that point, I wasn't real confident in my abilities. I was like, "Oh, I've got this one wrong." So he played on. He looked pretty busted, to be fair. Like I think the age old one and the most obvious one is Peter Wallace, who played for half a season without an ACL and only found out halfway through the season when he had a bit of discomfort. They scanned it and they're like, oh, that ACL has been torn for a long time, and you can tell that. So yeah, that's probably. But in terms of playing through like an acute ACL injury and performing well, I can't think of any off the top of my head in terms of actually performing well, because yeah, it's really tough. It's not like we've seen players finish out games and those kind of things, but in terms of actually staying on performing well, it very rarely happens. Can you think of any?
No, I can't think of any off the top of my head, mate. I think I can think of one or two people that might have tried to stay on, And then the knee is just so grossly unstable that they just can't hold themselves up or change direction. I think there was someone who did it a while ago, Brian, and they were trying to retreat in the defensive line and they fell over and someone ran through them and scored a try. And I can't remember who that was off the top of my head, but it's going to annoy me now. But there was that sort of situation. Going back to your Greg Eagles example, though, I remember that distinctly because you were like, oh, it definitely looks like this. And I remember seeing the hands-on test, and I was like, mate,
Yeah.
this tibia is flopping around everywhere.
I
I was like,
remember
this is
messaging
done.
you about this. Yep,
Yeah.
100%.
And then because you're like, no, it definitely looked like this, and everyone's hosing me for it. And I was like, mate, look at that hands-on test. That thing is just slopping around everywhere. You're on the money here, mate. Yeah, I remember that really distinctly. That was a hot minute ago. Actually, I was like 2015 or 16 or something like that.
Yep.
2016 in that sort of era. It was a long time ago, but yeah, I just remembered like just how sloppy the ACL was looking for old GI there, poor bugger. And then they taped him up and he scored that try on the wing, chasing that kick through, and he did not look good at all. He was like glue factory level at that point in time, the poor bugger. I guess it's probably this is a similar sort of question there, but why can some players play on but others have massive pain post ACL injury? It's probably cut from the same sort of cloth, that question, isn't it?
Yeah, similar one. Like I think pain tolerance is obviously a big one. Like, pain tolerance differs across any population, even an athletic population. But I think the big one for me and what I've seen from a lot of my athletes who, either report playing on or coming off, I think it's a lot to do with the secondary damage. So when it's a pure ACL, which is super rare, well, not super rare, it's quite uncommon because often you have with an ACL a traumatic mechanism, change direction. There's trauma that goes throughout the knee joint, whether it be cartilage, meniscus, MCL, or all of the above kind of cop a bit of a battering as well. But what we often see with those just isolated ACL injuries is the pain is super, super acute. And you see guys call out, grab their knee, they're in a heap of pain. But then 2-3 minutes later, they're like, oh, like I'm sweet. I can keep going. The trainer comes out and by then they're kind of like, yeah, I think I can keep going. It's when you've got things like meniscus, like MCL, the multi-directional instability, multi-damage like that can kind of, I think guys come off pretty quickly after that. I mean, you're the perfect example of this. We told this story a couple of weeks ago where when you first went down, you were screaming your head off. And we're talking high-level athletes here. That's why I went straight to you, mate. But like you were screaming the house down. Like I don't think I've ever heard you scream like that. And then like I took you off and 5 minutes later, you were running up and down the sideline going, oh, I think I might be okay. Like you weren't going back on because I think being physio at that point, we kind of went, oh, look, non-contact, but you were like, oh, I think it's not too bad. Like I should be okay. And that was probably my earliest exposure to it. But you can probably talk to it, but yeah, I think with those pretty isolated ACL injuries, we do see that happen a little bit.
I will say that with ACLs, Brian, they're probably one of the more pain provocative things I've ever had to endure. I don't know about anyone else that's had an ACL injury themselves, but they're pretty bloody painful. I will say that. I don't think there's been too many other things that I've been involved with traumatically or injury wise. It's been worse than an ACL rupture. So yeah, not a huge amount of fun. So usually if there's pain severity is there, you can be fairly confident there's probably intra-articular issues that you're going to have to deal with. That's for sure. Last question, Brian, is about Will Warbrick. The question thrown out here, is medical retirement a possibility for Will Warbrick? He's obviously been missing for many, many weeks with concussion. When was that week 1 that he got concussed in, Brian, or week 2? I can't remember. It seems like it was an awfully long time ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very early on in the season. Yeah, look, I think that, well, with him, he had like the delayed symptoms. I think it was after round 2, potentially. Missed a little bit, then he had another one. So I think it's like kind of the compounding thing. Off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. In terms of, is it a possibility? Yes, it's a possibility. It's a possibility for any like player who suffers from these ongoing concussion symptoms, these complex concussion recoveries, those kind of things. It's still, even at this stage, I would count it as the unlikely outcome because more often than not, these concussions, even the complex ones, are going to reside, with rest and good treatment and those kind of things. But, once again, it's not one size fits all, in that Will might get, like, he might be medically cleared and just go, actually, no, like I don't want to take the risk that the experience, was too traumatic for me. I don't want to go back. I mean, it's very rare for athletes, as we spoke about. They're usually bull at a gate. They just want to play. But yeah, it just becomes a bit more of a complex situation. So it's a possibility, but yeah, I just would still have it on the less likely side. Mate, that's the questions. If we talked about Queensland Origin team being grim, mate, we're heading over to SuperCoach Corner here, where you and I, we are sorrow brothers this week because, yeah, SuperCoach just has not gone well for us. I think big free fall down the ranks for both of us this week. Hit me with what, just all the bombs that have gone off. And I guess what you're going to do, we've got big moves to make this week to try and make up for it.
We're going to try and do what we can, Brian, and just hang on for dear life. It's all a bit sad at the moment. I nearly did, do my own eulogy for this team as it's gone down this week. So as it stands at the moment, so I'm 10.94 with Connor Tracy left, so I'm on a really, really, really low score. My 3 players of Lehi, Hopoate, Christian Tuipulotu, and Savelio Tamale combined to score me 6 whole SuperCoach points this week. So that's a really good get by me. When I saw Lehi in that first game, Brian, when I saw him chase the kick through, I was like, oh, I'm on here. He scored in the first 5 minutes. This is going to be unbelievable. He's going to go ballistic. He's going to give me another 100-point score again. And then he knocked himself out. I went, oh dear, this could be a bad omen for the rest of my week. So didn't get much better from there. I captained Terrell May. I had a vice captaincy on Pappenhausen. So I traded in Christian Tuipulotu and Sugar at second row for Tom Trbojevic and Corey Horsburgh. So that didn't work out for me at all. So that was just a giant waste of a trade, trading in Christian Tuipulotu on top of losing me another 40 grand. So that was a real kick in the dick, that one. So this week I've got to make 3 trades because we get 3 trades for round 15. I'm trading out Lehi Hopoate, Christian Tuipulotu, and Savelio Tamale. So the guys who scored me 6 whole SuperCoach points this week are my 3 trade outs. The only thing probably to bear in mind will be if Sam Walker gets named to come back for the Roosters and Sandon Smith is in the reserves, then I'm completely cooked at hooker because I'm running Sandon Smith and Corey Pake. So if that's the case, I may well have to just play hooker and just save a centre wing trade for the following week, potentially, depending on my numbers for 15. I think at the present I've got 13 players, so I've still got enough. It would just be a case of, maybe trading 1 or 2 more in so I have a bit more of a ceiling there for this week. In terms of what I'm going to do this week, it's probably Lawson at the centre wing position, Scott Drinkwater as well are probably my 2 lock and loads. The only thing that might change that as well is the hooker situation and conundrum I've got, or whether Sifa Talakai gets a starting centre position for Cronulla. He'll be priced in at about 270 or 280, I believe. So I think if he's there for an extended run, there's a few injuries just stacking up there for the Sharkies. So there might be some minutes to go around there. I don't think he's got really the inside lane, Brian, because I guess Katoa's just come back. Mulatalo's back from suspension soon, but Stone Street's going to be out long term. Kale Ira's going to be out long term. I think he's still an injury away, I think, in my head. But we want one to watch there for Team List Tuesday next week. Then I need to get creative for another centre position as it stands. I think hopefully Jacob Carraz doesn't go absolutely troppo on Monday night, and I'll probably look at getting him in. The other one's obviously the big guns, Herbie, Zach Lomax, Greg Marzu, potentially, who's got coverage. Or I could do a second rower that's just on the cheap there. So Hamale's reasonably cheap. Britton Nicker is really cheap, with a view to them, covering those little buy rounds for me, which are a bit tricky. Round 16, I really want Jarrell Skelton, Brian. So I think with the post-origin backups, it might be a bit sketchy, but I'm pretty keen on Skelton. He'll be in the mid-400s. He's 2% owned. He looked pretty good off the hamstring today. The work rate's still there. He's a high risk of re-injury, but I've sort of made my bed there twice already, so I might as well just triple it up. I reckon I've taken Trbojevic, Tuipulotu. I might as well just get Jarrell Skelton again just to round off my season on the rugby league thigh front, which is the hamstring injury. So yeah, a lot went wrong for me this week, and it's just the way it falls. Hey, I had two good weeks with Lehi. I thought Christian Tuipulotu would be solid against the Finns, and Tamale got injured, and he was my reserves. And he was one I reserved all year. It happens like that sometimes. So yeah, really really low score for me this week. I'm going to lose heaps and heaps of points. You're looking better than me this week, Brian. But obviously we copped a few out of this week, didn't we?
Yeah, I think I'm 12-21 with Lomax to come, but I just go into my leagues at the moment and pretty much all of them are like 1350 plus 1400 kind of scores. So pretty brutal stuff. So I reckon I'll be about 100 points off where I want to be to start making some ground, which is what I was hoping to do this week. So I captain Cleary, Cop Tamale, so not as bad as you. I brought in Campbell for Munster, which has worked out as a fail, but Ellie Katoa for Horsburgh, so I kind of yeah, like those trades just equaled each other's out. I think I sent a screenshot to you during the week of like 6 trades I could do to get to a team that I was super stoked with. So like that would have left me, it would have left me with a gun team over like 21 players. I think I had like Lawson, enough in front row, enough in second row, who is 2RF CTW, and enough LKT King Togia at 5'8". But apart from that, like a really solid team with really good guys all across the park. But that would have left me with like 10 trades left, James. And I'm like, that's bored. Like, what are you doing, mate? Like, I can't have 10 trades left. I've got to keep max trading and get excited around here. So I'm like, I can't play it safe. I've got to keep going balls to the wall. So I think, just not settling for what looks like a good team and going a few pods. Look, it might take me from 5,000 where I am to 15,000, but it could also take me from 5,000 to, I don't know, better than I am now. And as we speak about, I don't think anybody really makes a big song and dance about the difference between those two kind of scores. So for me, I'm thinking Toya to Lawson to free up the cash to go Tamale to Teddy. And then I want to do a third trade anyway. I think that'd take me down to 12 trades or something like that. But I'm looking at like a Joey Tapine, who, I don't know, Ricky has just stuffed us again, going low minutes for Taps. So maybe Joey Taps to like Herbie, maybe Kiraz, someone like that, or go like completely left field and get someone, out of the ordinary. I think the one that I really want to do for my heart is to get Isaiah Katoa in, because he just has his hand in everything for the Finns. And that would be a good way to kind of finish off my year, is just with Katoa in my halves and enjoying games where he's playing, not only for the Finns, but for my SuperCoach team as well. Because I don't own him in any drafts. So, and if Lord forbid if Jermaine Asako got injured, but Isaiah Katoa, mate, like he'd be goal kicking then. Oh boy. Like if that ever, I think Jermaine's going to sign an extension with the Finns soon. But if he doesn't somehow, then Isaiah Katoa pick 101 for me next year in drafts, I reckon.
Cool. Yeah.
Just the heart pick. But that's kind of where I'm at. I think those first two trades are pretty tame. But yeah, I just want to try and mix things up a little bit because, I reckon this year's been pretty easy cash generation wise. Like, I just feel like I have not, you and I were talking about it during the week, I've never gotten to a point where I've could map out my trades and be like, oh, I'm really happy with that team. I've got, jewels all over the place, can move guys around. I've got like 20 to 21 really solid guns, and I've got 10 trades left. Like, that is just, I've never had that before. I'm usually max trading right up to the last trade in round 20. I'm usually done by in 2021 in previous years. And I'm really struggling to kind of get that balance right. And I mean, injuries are probably going to smash us now anyway. But I just feel like I'm happy to burn trades because I just want to do some exciting things. So once again, if anyone's got some excitement, I got some good DMs this week. I think someone said Phil Sami, Dane Gagai was an option. Actually, Gags might be the sneaky option for me in the CTW potentially. I think round 16 and 19 are by far going to be the hardest for me. I don't know about whether you've done your numbers, but I think 15 and 18 I'm sweet because I only need 13 players. But 16 and 19, I am, especially 16 with the guys coming back from Perth and potentially not backing up, I reckon I'm really going to scrape numbers there. So I really need to sit down and do my math. And that's why someone like Kiraz probably doesn't attract me as much because he doesn't play 16. So for me, I just think maybe he's like around 17 bring in for me, just at the thought. And that's kind of why, because I was, and this shows you, I was going to leave the Eli Katoa trade until round 16 because I didn't really need to make that trade this week. I could have just sat back, But I was counting on Billy doing the smart thing and picking Horsburgh in the team. And I was like, right, if he's in the team, he's not going to be backing up for round 16, or he's less likely to. And then I might need 2 trades in round 16 extra. So I don't want to leave Eli Katoa till then. I'm happy to bring him in now. So that just hasn't worked out exactly how I would like, but that was kind of my mentality. Is I made that trade specifically with round 16 in mind, in that I want 2 trades free in round 16 because I think I might be a bit short there. How are you looking for 16 and 19, mate?
Yeah, so I think for 16, I think I've got around about 15 as it stands at the moment.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I'm actually not too bad, to be fair. I'm just having a look at my team now, but really, Munster definitely won't back up. Tino won't back up. Haas won't back up. So I think I've probably still got in the ballpark of 15 there by the time it all plays out. So I think I'm doing okay numbers wise. It's
Yep.
just, this week I've got to find 3 extra players that I wasn't really banking on having to make trades. I was happy to roll with Lehi for another few weeks. Christian Tuipulotu, I was hoping I could get a few weeks out of him, but I'm moving them on straight away. Like it's a bit of a kick in the balls actually. Like when you don't even get a chance to ride the wave with someone. Like the only thing would be is if Tuipulotu somehow gets named next week. I think they have the first game of the round next week. Actually, the Dragons do. So we should know if he's going to play or not play come that Thursday night game. So if he does play, then he might just be one that I just have to take my medicine on for another couple of weeks and just roll with him for another couple of weeks. If it is awareness, and hopefully he can get through that. It is a week turnaround, so it's not a short week. So it might be worth holding Tuipulotu. I don't know. What would you do with Tuipulotu? I know we said before we've probably got to move him on, but now I've already got him and it is a bye week. I don't know. I might
Oh, mate,
even
if
have to
he's
be
named,
holding on to him.
I think if he's named, you just write. Because as I said, cash gen, not huge. We've all got pretty good cash gen, pretty good teams. So I think, I think you'd hold him and just hope that he can, strike gold because they're the kind of guys you want in bye rounds, right? When there's only 13 players. Yeah, I'm less inclined to go out and bring in a guy who potentially could, score you 50 to 80, right? I want a guy who can score me 40 to 140 and hope that it's the 140 week because we've only got 13 guys playing. That's kind of the way I look at it. And Tuipulotu is definitely one of those guys. So I would, if he's somehow named next week, I'd stay on him. But I mean, even with you, trading out Lehi and Tuipulotu, they're 2 guys who don't play 16 anyway. So you're conceivably gaining a couple of 16 numbers there too, which would be good for you. So I don't think it's the worst thing to happen to you, especially with 16, us needing to field a full 17 players. It's going to be a tough week.
Yeah, most definitely, mate. So I've got some big decisions, mate. So if people want to get weird with centre wings, let me know. Give us a little shoot in the DMs, and I'll try to get some pretty low ownership weapons in that sort of setup there. I guess one thing I could do is bring you and Aiken down and do the Britton Nickera thing because that's a pretty easy. I can actually save money doing that as well, which I might well do. Nickera's been a bit unders this year though, Brien, hasn't he? I guess Nickera's been a bit unders. I don't have Olakau'atu, so that is another one that's pretty obvious, but the Manly guys, you don't have too many of them in your team for around 16 and 19, isn't it? The mini buys that the Manly boys miss. Yeah, Jack Williams is a real smoky at second row, I suppose. Depends on how he goes on Monday night, just coming up. So a few people in there that might be in contention. So I could do centre wings, I could do second rows. It would just be a case of just because everyone's got the same team, Brian. That's why I'm just like, you know what, I'll just happily take some guys that are sub 5% and I'll just stick in and roll with them because everyone's got the same team. So I'm just happy to just roll some other dudes in there because otherwise you see your matchups and you got 14 of the same players out of 17. You're like, okay, this is not fun.
And that was my problem with my little plan that I sent you, right? Is that I sent it to you and I'm like, oh, I'd be so happy with this team. It looks so good. But then you look at it and I'm like, it's cookie cutter. Everyone kind of has those same players. Mate, I just had a thought and I'm going to throw it out to get super spicy and I think you'll eat this up. And you can probably clarify for me because I can't remember which wing he played on. But which wing did Josiah Karapani play on? Because if it's
he
the
played
left
on the left
wing,
wing
mate,
and he's been fed.
Walsh back, he's 290K, not next week because they're on the bye. But that for me, a Karapani on the left wing, yes, you've got Selwyn Cobbo there and abouts. Like I get it's probably dumb, but also that's the kind of shit I'm all about at this point in the season. Like if Karapani's named in round 16, I don't know about the Broncos draw. I haven't looked into it that heavily. It just popped into my head and I'm all about vibes. I'm like, if he's on left wing and Reece Walsh is running those sweep plays and looking pretty good, not the worst option. And not even as like if he was 490K, I'm not saying jump on him as like a cheapie. I'm saying like jump on him as like a starter point of difference kind of, like play, because that left wing for the Bronx can be good real estate.
Yeah, it can be good pay dirt areas out there. And yeah, I guess even in that Origin period, I'm really, really keen on, we said it, earlier in the year, any of the fullbacks that don't get named for Origin who are Jets, they're definitely worth a little bo peep in this time of year. Reece Walsh is probably one. They don't have a great sort of upcoming draw there through the Origin period. I'll just have a look at them now, but I'm pretty sure they get the Sharks in 16 and then they go into the Warriors, the Bulldogs, and then the Titans in the round 20 buys. It's not a great run really for the Broncos there. Like they don't have a lot of cushy matchups. Sharks, Warriors, Bulldogs is about as tough as it gets. The Gold Coast they should hump in round 19, like they just did in the weekend just gone. But then they go into Para, Bunnies, Storm, Dolphins, Knights, Cowboys, Storm to end of the year. So it's not a sort of a cakewalk of a draw there for the Broncos, but they're sort of a bit of a streaky team. Like you just got to hope, for the best. Like one of our good friends in one of the draft comps this year in the Invitational took a very Broncos heavy approach, which we all rinsed him for, but he's winning the comp at the moment. He's coming first and he's got the most points for by plenty. So, when the Broncos go big, he wins the matchup every game. So he's got a team full of Broncos, which will be funny, when the buys do happen and things change there. But yeah, it's worked out for him so far, Brian, hasn't it? The Broncos heavy approach.
Mate, if only it worked out for Michael Maguire as well.
Yeah.
This year. Yeah. Anyway. All right. I think that'll do us for this week. That is a wrap. If you have any good suggestions for our SuperCoach trade, some left field like vibey picks, send us a DM, let us know. But that is a wrap. If you like the pod, give us a review, recommend to a friend. James, yeah, I'm like my vibes have never. I don't know. My vibes have just never been lower around an Origin squad. I even the Ezra Mam thing. I just don't. I just don't feel great about the whole thing. Oh, it's gonna be a long week.
It's easy from the couch, Brian, as they say.
Of course, yeah, of course.
I mean, we've made it bloody hard as it stands. So I don't know what the way out is. It doesn't look good. That's all I'll say.
We're very vibe space guys. If you haven't,
oh yeah,
if you haven't listened to this,
mate, we even said off air, like just launch Owen Paddy in there.
Yeah.
He's a 10 gamer, 15 gamer. Just go. You know what? This guy's got a bit about him. Let's put him in Maroon and see how he goes. Like I'd be much happier to see that and just go 1-2 combo with Paddy and Harry Grant. Just say, okay, everything's getting played off the 9, and that's what we're going to do. And then, leave Kurt Mann out of the 17 and just make a few changes in the forwards. I would have been up and about. Like, you would have heard me carrying on like we're going to win this next game by 50 if that happened. But it just hasn't. And there's nothing you can really get more excited for from that point of view, Brian. So it's pretty disappointing, isn't it?
Even Finny Fuiaki, mate. Like, I know I'm a Finns homer, but I thought he's been pretty good for the Finns this year. But
solid as.
Yeah. No, apparently you just dropped the guy who wasn't even on the field for most of the game that Queensland were dominated in. So yeah, mate. Oh boy. All right. Yeah. Look, have a good week, guys. Except for you, New South Welshmen. God damn it. Let me know if this is what it felt like when Freddie was coach and Laurie at the end. But up the mighty Redcliffe Dolphins.
Suspected